This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by The Fire Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting thefirestore.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzow. I will be your host, like it or not, actually, because Janelle is not with us today. But with me is, I don't even know where to begin with this, but a very good friend of the show, very good friend of the fire service. We have Chief John Butler here. He has been on before and told some remarkable stories and gave us a lot of remarkable knowledge. And so I'm really happy to welcome back the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Chief there in Virginia. He's also the outgoing president chair of the board of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, IAFC. Welcome back, Chief. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again. It was a lot of fun last time, and I'm sure it'll be just as much interesting conversation.
We started this conversation today. I remembered something about you, and I think though it goes into what you stand for. At one point in your life, you had to fire your own brother because he was not, but he just wasn't stepping up to the expectations that you had. But I want people to listen, like the meaning behind this. And you looked at me, you're like, you remembered that story, right? Like, tell us that, review that story, and let's go into a little bit about just who you are and why that's so relevant.
You're trying to get me in trouble with my brothers.
I am, yeah, because you said Thanksgiving was interesting after this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stir the pot.
It's still a sore spot.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. My bad.
No,
let's make it better. Let's make it better.
I like that as a sore spot. So here's the story. I was a young man, still in high school, and had been elevated from the kitchen prep, to the manager of the store overnight, almost overnight. The owner of the store came and fired the entire staff.
Pizzas, right? Is it pizza delivery?
Expressway Pizza in Columbia, Maryland. They're not existent anymore at all. But the leadership team wasn't running the restaurant too well. And he let the entire leadership team go. And he said, there's a 16-year-old who works in the prep in the kitchen. I've been watching him, and he could probably do better than all these adults. I was 16. These were like people in their 20s and 30s. And made me the restaurant manager. Well, one of the first things I did as the manager was hired my two brothers. I mean, that's what happened.
That's what you know at that age too, right?
Yeah. In fact, we're short-handed. We're short on pizza delivery drivers. So I hired my brothers, and they were habitually late. So I fired them after giving them warnings and told them they're no longer employed here.
Called mom and dad, said, hey, can you make sure that they show up on time, right? That kind of
right. So when they were terminated, when their employment was terminated, we never had another late employee, ever. Okay, the entire time, because the word on the street was, if he can terminate his own biological siblings, what's he going to do, to us?
Yeah,
if we're late. So it made it kind of awkward to go home to mom, who she too thought I was a little heavy-handed. Could I do that to my brothers? So I did hire them back, after an appeal, and they returned to work, and they were great drivers and great employees since then. And I remember having a conversation with them, about modeling the behavior and complicity. If by this time I was 17, and we were having this conversation about modeling the behavior we expect from others. The moment I say it's okay for you all to behave that way, what happens to the rest of the workforce? I'm like, well, hell, he lets his brothers do whatever, come and go as they please, so we can do it too. Apparently it's okay, so upholding the organizational values and expectations and commitments is important. So that was one of those early lessons till today. So that was back in '85 till today. When that story is brought up, it invokes emotion. amongst my two siblings. Gnashing of teeth. They didn't get
Yeah.
over it.
But look at where that's propelled. That mindset, though, has propelled you through a lot of different ranks. And I'm very fortunate. I get to interview a lot of people, and a lot of people mention your name in very positive ways, by the way. And that you've also given a lot of mentoring, and you've had meaningful discussions with a lot of people in the fire service. And I think that's a testament for who you are and where you've gone. So you talk about accountability and how important that is. Where do you actually begin to establish that just accountability principle and like kind of, the example you set with your brother even?
So one thing we started doing here in Fairfax County Fire is from day one, and I took this example from the Marine Corps, because in the Marines, when you're still at the entrance, what we call the MEPS, Military Entrance Processing Station, while you're still a civilian, you take the oath. You take the oath of country, Constitution, and everything else. So taking that model and bringing it to the fire service, to the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, the recruits on day one, in the first hour of their employment, generally speaking, definitely on the same day, same morning, they take the oath. They take an oath. They recite an oath that holds them accountable to each other, to the instructors, to themselves, to the community, to their families, to the mission, and all those things. And then we build on it. So going back to the accountability, when does it start? It starts on day one.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You don't have to be a chief. You don't have to be, you could be anybody, I think, within the fire service, any organization, to hold someone accountable. I mean, talk a little bit about that. So you wanted to start with leadership. How did you get it to trickle down then and empower your firefighters to feel that same way?
Leadership, and those two words go together, right? Leadership and empowerment. A lot of people throw around that word of empowerment, but are they really empowering others? Because if you're really empowering someone, it should be uncomfortable. It should be uncomfortable to let go of that as the donor, okay, and just as uncomfortable as the receiver to take it. So what I'm saying is we both should be uncomfortable. I'm giving you a big basket of responsibilities, challenges, and opportunities. Okay. This is your time, your opportunity to make this thing a legacy, whatever the thing is, this program, this station, this whatever, this project, it is yours. Report back every now and then. I'll give you the commander's intent. I'll point, you in the right strategic direction, but I'm going to let go and get out of your way. Kind of keep an eye on things, but certainly capital E, empowerment. That's how leadership grows. That's what happens. That's what happened to me. That's what happened, throughout my career in many ways. I told you about the story of a 16-year-old who was in the back, working the pizza dough machine that went around circles. That was my job. And to cut up the bell peppers for the toppings, and then within a few days being the manager of the store. Then that came a time where in a number of times in the Marines where I had to operate above my pay grade, above my rank, because either the lieutenant or the sergeant had gotten hurt or, struck in combat, and you step up, next one up. And so there's that opportunity to lead, and you don't ever know when it's coming. So there's always that.
How can you prep someone to empower them? It's like, there's certain times when, like you were saying, it's time where I needed to empower somebody or when someone needed to step up. How do we prepare them for that and not throw them into a situation where they're not going to be successful?
You prepare them by preparing them. I know that's not acceptable of an answer. but
in my Forrest Gump mind, I actually thought, oh yeah, that makes sense.
So what do? You make those opportunities for professional development, for professional education, for mentor opportunities, for riding the seat, physically, literally, in fire engines and fire trucks. The officer, a good leader will have opportunities where they get in the back seat and ride the bucket, and let the up and coming aspiring officer or the young lieutenant or whatever the case might be right up front, make those decisions, make those tactical and operational decisions, with a coach and mentor right there as a safety net. You do that, the sets and reps, and make those things happen for people. There also is this notion, it shouldn't be a new concept, but a spirit of yes, an attitude of yes. Many out there still throw the no around quite a bit. But it kind of goes back to what I said about empowerment, being uncomfortable. Like, hey, Captain, hey, Chief, we want to go try this. Okay, all right, go ahead. Give it a shot. Yes, you can. Go ahead. Give people an opportunity.
Is it kind of like empowering your kids to ride? You got training wheels to then. All right, take the training wheels off.
Yes.
Teach them a unicycle, then do a skateboard. Right. And I love the fact that you said empowerment is uncomfortable. Should be a little uncomfortable for both the giver and the receiver.
Right.
Was that something you had to be comfortable with eventually? I mean, or did you have trouble with it? Because it sounds like that's coming from experience, that knowledge right there.
Yes. I worked for a fire chief who's now passed away. He was a great guy, great friend, and coach and mentor, and just a good guy to me. His name was Bill Goddard. He was the fire chief in Howard County, Maryland. And I worked for a few other fire chiefs as an understudy, and they all brought different traits, characteristics, and contributions to my career. But with Bill Goddard created this executive officer role, and that's what I was. I was the number 2. We called it Chief Operating Officer. I was the Chief Operating Officer of the fire department, and he was the fire chief / CEO. And honestly, I ran the fire department. I day-to-day ran the fire department as the executive officer or the chief operating officer, depending on what time and what words we're using for it. But the decisions, the direction, the day-to-day operations of the organization was on me. And that was one heck of a training field, or an academy, if you will, for becoming a fire chief. I certainly touched base with him daily. We would talk for an hour or two while he drove in. He lived rather far, so in his drive in the mornings, we would kind of debrief or pre-brief, if you will, and he would get out of the way and let me do what he expected. That was excellent. And what happened with me was, since then, that's how I've treated all my number 2s, second in commands. I think last I counted, I've had 14 second in commands as a fire chief. That's a lot of people who've been understudies, and they've all, I think, have been empowered. In fact, to a fault. Sometimes I hear, Butler's not running the fire department. Butler's not running the fire department. And I say, you're welcome. Thank you. You got it.
Yes, this is the guy who'll fire his own brother. You don't want him, man.
Right. The best compliment I would want is to be able to tell the story of this organization or any organization, the IAFC, Fairfax County, and not mention my name. The best compliment is not mention my name, but just see all that's happened under it. It's the merit, it's the accomplishments of the organization. My name will speak for itself. Okay. And you're measured by, how you led and what servant leadership traits you carried forward,
Yeah. Which is that empowerment. And it's, the sign behind me says great things never come from comfort zones. That's been a theme of yours, I think, for your entire career. And I just have never heard it in the empowerment, statement like that. And I think that's a very riveting statement, especially for our listeners, that if you're giving some task to somebody and it's uncomfortable and they're uncomfortable, it's maybe the right time, if they they'll shun it out and absolutely say no, and there's not any level of excitement there, then they're not ready for that. Is that about a good correct statement?
And I want to make sure we don't over amplify discomfort or define miscomfort as unprepared or ill-prepared. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to empower someone who's not prepared for that. So the discomfort is not the same as, catch someone blindsided and empower them. That person should be in the right place, right merit, right education, right experiences, right attitude, right emotional intelligence. Okay. One of the huge, understated. That emotional intelligence probably trumps a lot of things. So all those traits are considered before the person or persons are empowered.
And I think that's a really good point to hit too, right? Like you have to set someone up. We talked about before. There has to be kind of a plan in place with it before you fully empower someone. You educate and you train and you mentor, like you had said. So let's go back to the role that you just had for the last year.
Okay.
And with the IAFC president, who did you have kind of mentor you in that position or to get to that position?
There's no one person, and I could throw names and I'll miss some. I have a good friend in Mark Light, who's the former CEO at the IAFC. I have a current good friend, actually not current. He's been a friend for a long time. The CEO, Rob Brown, who's also a good educator and coach and mentor and a good historian of the association. I have fire chief friends in Fairfax County and the community and the fire service community that I've sought. Gary Breeze up in Colorado, and Chief Lamont Ewell, and Chief Mary Beth Michaels. I could go on, and I'll miss some. I know I will. So I apologize to the listeners who who you are out there. All of that. No one person reads from one book.
Yeah.
So different pages from different people help prepare me. There are a number of really good friends and supporters and coaches on our board. Our board of directors have been where I also get my energy. The president of the Metro Fire Chiefs, Chief Ernest Malone out of Indianapolis, real good friend and a sage advisor. He's got a lot of wisdom and helps. Like I said, I'll keep naming names and forget some.
Yeah, right. It's a lose-lose. I set you up for that one, Chief. So you're going to have to shake a lot of hands and give a lot of hugs. Let's talk about your tenure, though. Let's talk about the good things that that you're really proud of, and the kind of where the organization has moved since you took over, and the expectations for the future of the organization. IFC, and I think the fire service goes along with that too. So we could probably say them interchangeably. So let's recap. Let's say the good.
Well, there's a lot of good. Let's see. I could start with our contribution to Senate Bill 870, where $750 million went to AFG and SAFER for the reauthorization of the USFA and the National Fire Academy, funding for NARIS, the National Emergency Response Information System, a lot of work with the IAFF, continued work for Labor Management Alliance and Wellness Fitness initiatives with the IAFF. We're trying to expand and amplify our international footprint by the fire officers of the European Union. The FEU Council was established in the IAFC to expand our footprint and putting the I in
international
in the IAFC. Yep. We did a lot of work on Capitol Hill. We did a lot of work with the FCC and 4.9 gigahertz band manager positions. And that's just a handful. It was great to have a fire rescue med come back, one of our sections conference that had been kind of dormant for a while, and that returned in Las Vegas, fire rescue med. TSI summit, the TSI conference we had in Texas, and this coming year will be in Oklahoma City. Some work in the wildland space, community risk reduction. The IFC is strong. We're really strong. We're getting stronger financially, mission-wise, structurally, and in all those spaces. One thing I've learned a lot, but one thing I learned this year, most other entities have to focus on their entity, okay? Be it an EMS section or a volunteer and combination section, or a division, New England division, Southwestern division, Western division, the Metro Chiefs. Everyone has their niche, their constituency. The IAFC is a federated model. We have to give a damn about everything. We have to care about all of it, because the international board has to keep this loosely sewn fabric together of all these sections and divisions. So it's interesting. It's been an interesting experience because a lot of people want the direction and the momentum of the board, but the board has to be open and lead the entire association.
Yeah.
It's the ninth oldest association in the U.S.
Ninth oldest in the U.S.
Yes. Yeah. 150 years old. We just celebrated our sesquicentennial. 150.
I'm not even going to try to say that word. That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Chief Donna Black and I, immediate past President Donna Black and I have been saying it quite a bit over the last 2 years. So it still doesn't even roll off the tongue.
Yeah, you did it very well. All I know is it's old. It's an old organization, but with that, right? So then a lot of people are listening and going, okay, so it's an old organization. Are they stuck in their ways? And so let me ask, what are some things that you'd like to see maybe improved upon within the organization, or kind of you said you've seen a lot, you've been able to experience some wonderful things and do some great things. Let's go, where can we improve? Because we're all about being better, right? And I know that's the way that you look at things too. What would you say to IAFC board, or I'm sure you're going to get the opportunity, but what does your mind's eye say about that?
So that's somewhat of an easy question to answer because for one, we're already doing it. We want to stay relevant in the tech and science space. Okay, we have that TSI conference that I just talked about, the Fire Data Analysis Work Group, Fire Dogs. Okay, we're doing work with data analytics, the international space, like I just mentioned, a lot of things that are emerging with the leadership of the United States Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori, and the One Voice, the Fire Service One Voice initiative, staying close to recruiting, retention, EMS, lithium-ion battery fires, some of those emerging threats. As it turns out, today we're recognizing the 1 year since the Lahaina fire in Maui. All right, the U.S. Fire Administration is doing a lot of leadership in that space, and the IFC has a lane that they can help in that regard with wildfires in the wildland environment. So that's just a few. While some of these threats are so-called old, they're still here, and then some of them are emerging. Not only threats, but they're also emerging opportunities, like I said, with tech and science and data. So there's a lot of room here for continued growth. We always should be aware and celebrate and learn and understand our 150 years, but there's another 150 years ahead of us. We still have to work on inclusion, equity and inclusion. We still have to work on, cancer, carcinogen reduction, okay, and cardiac awareness, mental and physical resilience. So while those things are still on the table.
Yeah. You mentioned One Voice, and I think you're just the perfect person to maybe connect with somebody. Someone might be listening to this going, yeah, well, it's not my voice they're listening to. What would you say to that? And really, what are some things that they can do to be heard or to understand what that voice is about?
So who would say that? I would hope that they have a connection or an affiliation or, an alliance with a certain group, be it NVFC, the National Volunteer Fire Council, or the IAFF, or the IFC, or pick another a body, the Women in Fire, or the Women Chiefs Council in the IFC, the Metro in the IFC, NFPA. There are a lot of lanes. So depending on who says that, I would suggest getting aligned with their divisions, the geographic divisions or the state associations. Get that voice to be mobilized. What is the battle cry? What is the battle cry in Great Lakes? What's the battle cry in Missouri Valley, in the Western, or Texas Chiefs, or whatever the case might be, and let those voices percolate up. I can probably assure you that the One Voice movement and Dr. Lori's leadership and the work groups she's formed addresses most of the big issues. You can't hit everything. No organization can address all the issues, but I assure you, the ones that are the wicked issues in the fire service are being addressed with the fire service One Voice work groups.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great way to say it. That align your voice then. And
Yeah.
maybe some people think their voice isn't being heard because when the reality sets, they don't know what their voice is. You know, they might have a couple different octaves or pitches, but they don't really have it. So I love the fact, explore, try to find people that also, speak that same voice. And as you said, then the IFC can align with that.
Yeah.
And they're willing to do that. As far as you personally, from a development standpoint, take us through your own personal journey through this a little bit. What did you discover about yourself?
What I discovered, I think, and I feel, just me, that I'm a better fire chief today than I was a year ago. I've been gone from my organization for quite a bit. I had to jump in it and jump out of it, and hundreds of thousands of miles of travel and tons of places to visit, and spent some time in the Fairfax County Fire Department over the last year, as much as I could. But being away has brought back a better fire chief, one that's a little bit more articulate on expressing the vision, expressing the issues. I've been blessed and fortunate to travel the country and in many countries, and seeing the fire service, the entire fire service. So I know when I come back to Fairfax County, what's our strengths, what's our weakness, where are the opportunities, and the threats, and internal and external. I believe I'm a better fire chief. I look forward to passing the baton to incoming President Josh Waldo, and having more time to do the most important job, other than being a family guy. The most important job I've ever had, and the one that I cherish, is to be the fire chief in Fairfax County, Virginia. Love it. Love every minute of it. Many people do these things, the IAFC presidency or positions like this, and as they're coming out of it, they start, shining up their resumes, and how am I going to climb the ladder? How am I going to ascend based on what's happened here? I like being a fire chief, and I like being a fire chief here, and I could do that for some time. There's not much more I could put on my resume. I do enjoy the space I'm in now, and it's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, but someone's knocking on the door, Chief, and says, you would maybe make a great governor or city manager or mayor. Has that ever crossed your mind?
It has. I've considered it. There are people who think I could do that now, or should do that now. Everything I just said, I'm not going to close any door. Anybody knocking, I'll open a door and have conversations and really understand myself. It starts with self, and what am I willing to put those around me through? When those decisions are made, because you drag a village with you when you take on certain initiatives. I've seen it this year.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, what a lot of people don't understand is they think, oh, Chief gets to, he's going to these meetings and he gets to wine and dine, he gets these nice dinners and he speaks, but it is a grind, and
yes.
It takes its toll on the family. And,
right.
And, I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a bit from conferences and present, and it is a grind, especially with, coming back and trying to run an organization.
Sure.
There are those moments when you're speaking, there's those moments when you're traveling, that bring it all together and make it so worthwhile. Are there some things that stick out in your mind where you kind of sat back and went, I know I'm supposed to be here. I'm glad I'm doing this, like a special thank you or a presentation that you didn't expect, some couple events. Tell us about that side of stuff that kept you motivated.
Immediately when you asked the question, not that long ago, I was in Atlanta with the Southeast Division, and I spoke like I like anyone would as the president of the association. And in the outside of the main room, I was speaking with some attendees, and someone had their son, a young man there, probably 5, 6, 7 years old. I always mess up ages in that space, but he gave me a figurine, a small toy, about an inch tall, little figurine, and it was humbling because he had a gift for me. He had a souvenir. He had something that he wanted to pass along, and I didn't have much on me at the time. Usually carry some little trinkets in my pockets. I didn't have any on me at that time, but what I did have was the IAFC pin on my lapel, and I took that out and pinned him with the IAFC pin. I suspect he'll remember that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
And the little plastic, little rubberized gumball toy that he gave me still sits on my dresser, today. It's just like the smallest things that make it all worthwhile. It's everywhere everywhere I went, it has a story. We could spend hours talking about my experiences in New England, in Boston, in Worcester, in Baton Rouge, in Anchorage. There are stories. They've all been a great time, and everyone made me a little better by the time I left, and the people there.
Yeah.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision we make as a company is about you, our customer. We wouldn't be where we are today without you, and we don't take that lightly. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at thefirestore.com for everything but the truck, and shop our family of brands, including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more. Now let's get back to the show.
Did you always? You had to be tired. How did you get through? You'd mentioned you told a great story about when you were, you're receiving the presidency. You had been all around the conference and convention, and you had, and one of your mentors, I believe, like looked at you and said, "I need you to find your energy. Find where you get your energy." Like, was there points through this year where you kind of just went back to that and said, "All right, I need to do this," and take me through that a little bit?
Well, the guy who said that is standing right here. He's still next to me. A very powerful question he asked or suggested, like, where do you get your energy? Find that, because the day in question, it was the end of the day, late in the conference. I was dragging, and that question has stuck with me when those down moments have come, like, what's it going to take? What do you need to be your best self? I'm by nature an introvert, and people talk about introverts and extroverts and something in the middle. It all comes down to where do you get your energy? So that's been very present in my mind. Now back to your question. What's happened this year is I've emphasized and prioritized nutrition and sleep. I wanted to make it through the year and not have gained a whole lot of weight, or become rather unhealthy. And weight wise, I think I did well. I think I stayed in the zone I wanted to. Sleep is probably the biggest thing I would talk about, emphasizing sleep and prioritizing that. I've learned how to take before a year ago, I couldn't get a 20-minute nap on any airplane anytime. Well, times have changed. I can get on an airplane and take a power nap between, Dulles Airport in DC to Chicago. I would have gotten a decent quick nap, so to be able to get off the plane with some degree of, vigor and get to work. Many times I was getting off the airplane and have to go straight to work per se, or speak, or jump in a cab and do a presentation. So taking care of self is a big deal. I look forward to doing it more. This year I did lose some time with fitness. I was able to, you've heard me talk about sleep and nutrition. Something that took a dip was actual physical exertion and fitness. Did some, but looking forward to getting back, being able to pull off a 5K and get on my bicycle and do some other things that I like to do.
Yeah. Get out from behind the desk a little bit, push off, walk. Yep. They call it outdooring a little bit now. Is like getting outdoors and exercise. Did you track your sleep at all? Like, did you really start to get into it a little bit about figuring out how it really affected you?
I know how I felt when I wasn't doing it right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, but earlier bedtime, less adult beverages before bedtime. That played a big role. Just being aware of everything, even when you eat and everything else. Just
because there's a lot of social gatherings that you have to attend to.
Absolutely.
So did you at certain social gatherings, did you say, no, I'm not having a drink. I'm sticking true to fueling myself for this position.
Yeah, there are times I'm rather disciplined. I can say to myself, I'm not eating a lot on this trip, or I'm not doing cocktails all day, every day on this trip. There are times for that, and I'm a moderate in general. I mean, I'm not I don't do anything too much either way. So it's not too terribly hard to keep those things in line.
Yeah, but it can easily get out, right? The potential for it is there. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about health, but not necessarily personal, but I believe that is so imperative, and it's really great to hear you say, look, it's a position that you have to set your sleep, your eating, and your exercise too, because the stress of it. So it's great to hear, and I'm sure that's the advice you would have.
Yes.
For Josh or anyone else in these positions is don't lose that, right? Really focus on that.
Josh is a more disciplined fitness guy than I am. I don't think I'll have to be giving him advice on how to. He's a stud,
Well, we just did a Spartan race together, so yeah, I kind of challenged him, and I said, "Hey, let's do this." But he's a very energetic guy. But even the energetic ones, like this can zap your health a little bit.
Absolutely.
But let's move it to the health of the organization. Let's go back to that a second. You've made great progress. There's some things you want to work on. Let's say for anybody who's building an organization, you had said start with your guidelines and your protocols or what you stand for, and then start holding people accountable. What are some other steps along the process that you've taken from your IAFC, your Marine days, your Chief days, for those that are maybe new in leadership? Give us some more of your leadership kind of 101 Chief Butler style suggestions.
Quick response to that is focus and stay committed to the small unit leadership. Like you mentioned, I spent a long time in the Marine Corps, 21 years total. The first 6 of that was active duty. The other 15 of it was as a reserve Marine while I was in the fire service. I retired after 21 years in the Marine Corps infantry, I should add. And
I'm sorry, I should have spoke louder. Shouldn't I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. So I emphasize the word infantry because the infantry fire team is a 4-person team. Okay. What else is a 4-person team?
Crews.
That's the engine company or the truck company. So there was a lot of symmetry when I was growing up. The beauty of that is there's one leader, be it the corporal in the Marines, maybe in the fire service, a lieutenant, but everyone needs to know how to drive the apparatus. Everyone needs to know how to do, into 3/4 hose deployment or whatever the case, to be able to get water out of a hydrant and discharge to the end of the nozzle. So the small unit leadership is very important to me, and that has gone all the way up to now as a fire chief. That's what I espouse, pushing the issues down, push them down. The culture of all the problems go up to headquarters, to the head shed, to the glass palace. I want to kind of flip that, like many good leaders out there do. This is not novel. What I'm saying is not novel, but focusing on the small unit leader and the decentralization of the authorities and the decisions and the solutions to problems. Fix it at the firehouse.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting how we started with empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, that's kind of the idea, is that you want to train
Mm-hmm.
those, people below you to make those decisions, make solutions, correct?
Yep. Yep.
And you have a strategic way of doing that. Is that based off of, you have your basic level of education and training, and then you obviously need to assess along the way, right? Like,
Yes.
take me through how would you groom me? You know me a little bit. Like, good luck with that, by the way. But if I'm new to your staff, just kind of give me a brief 101 of kind of what that would be.
Well, I want to know you. I want to get to know you, and one way to do that is to listen. I paused for a reason. That was an intentional pause, because listening is an undervalued, underrated, underutilized skill. I mean, like true listening, not waiting for your turn to speak, but getting to know people, really leaning in. So that's one thing I would do with you, Aaron, and get to know you, get to try to know you. A couple of other questions I typically ask is, what's the last book you read? What's the last course you've taken? Credit, not credit, National Fire Academy, online, LinkedIn learning, or whatever. Just tell me something. Tell me what you've learned new. What's the last time you learned something new, and what was it? There's no wrong answer, but it does do a little self-assessment. Like, gosh, I've got to spend some more time in the space of curiosity. I want to know how curious you are. You know, how much do you want to be insatiable about learning and being great at your craft, whatever your craft is, and what work are you putting into it? So those are some quick things. I want to know about your families. People respect and want their leaders to know what they have and who they have at home, or outside the workspace. So there's just a few. I also like to check out, how much of a servant leader. What do you do that shows me examples of servant leadership? And servant leadership means different things to different people, but you certainly know it when you see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's really cool to just kind of watch, because then based off of those responses, you kind of develop, okay,
right,
this is a great next step for this particular individual. But it starts with an assessment, as you would,
mm-hmm.
which relies on listening.
Yep.
How do I become a better listener?
Do it. Practice. I'm not good at it. although I suggested it, doesn't mean I'm good at it. We have so many distractions. I used to ride motorcycles. I haven't ridden motorcycles for a few years. I think once I became a fire chief, I parked the motorcycle. When I realized I was carrying 2 cell phones and a watch that vibrated and phones that went off and there was so much going on, I no longer found that I was a safe rider because of the amount of distractions. And I've parked the bike since then. I'll get on it again sometime. It's down in the garage, no big deal. So back to listening. It's a challenge. We live in the age of things popping up on our computer screens and boxes and buzzing and all of that. To get rid of those things and really lean in. Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm not.
But it's an active.
It's active.
Process.
It's intentional. It's an intentional process.
And I think just like sleep is a skill. Listening is a skill, and we take those things for granted.
Sure.
And I think that's really, it's just refreshing to hear leaders say, these are the small things that really go a long way. I mean, I'm in, now I'm like, okay, Chief, will you hire me if I tell you what my last book was? What right? Like, but I think that's why so many people have brought your name up and respected you. And with that, like, what do you want your legacy to be with the IAFC?
I want my legacy to be about the IAFC. So there are 3 fiduciary responsibilities, and I want to make sure that I've aligned myself with them. Okay. A fiduciary duty to be loyal to the association. to care for the association, and to be obedient to the association's policies and rules and procedures. 3 fiduciary responsibilities. I want to be able to assign my name to them. That's what I did, and that's what I'll continue doing. Was I loyal to the association? Did I care about the association and its members? And did I follow the rules? Was I obedient to the rules? You could get real weird about the word obedient, but it's about obedience to the rules, not to a person or people. It's our bylaws and constitutions. So
like policies, like when you show up, like the simple things that make the organization the organization.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, how about you personally? How would you grade yourself?
I think I did well. I think I know for a fact I was loyal to the association. I know for darn sure I cared about it, and I didn't break any rules that I know of. So I was obedient, and really that's what. It's a good question you asked, and I hadn't given it a lot of thought. But if my name could be aligned with those, I'm good, because that's who I was before the presidency. That's who I was during, and that's certainly who I'll be after it. I'll continue. I'll be in past president for forever, but I'll always carry those 3 things for the IAFC.
So you're going to hand this off to Josh Waldo, and what emotions are you going to have?
Gosh, it's such an easy sentence. It almost loses a lot of impact. Like, I'm here for you. I'll be the best supporting immediate past president ever was, and there've been a lot of great ones. I had a great one. Donna was awesome. She was an awesome immediate past president, and I want to be what Donna was to me. I want to be that for Josh, and I will be that for Josh. Tell me which wall you want to go through. I'll help you get through the wall. If it's not a good wall, I'll tell you it's not a good wall.
Yeah.
But so I want it's daunting. I want Josh to know that he's got a posse. He's got a village of board members, and myself who will help him succeed in loyalty, care, and obedient to our association.
Yeah. Will there be a little bit of a relief that you did what you came to do and kind of shined a little bit? Obviously, we talked about some things you wanted to continually work on, but will there be a little relief there?
It would be. It would be. Our association is 150 years old. What a serendipitous moment. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan that I'd be the president, the 147th president during its 150th year, and to be in the seat and have the opportunity to cut the cake, on October 20th of last year in Baton Rouge with the Southwestern Division was special. It was special to me and those around. The actual day of our anniversary. So it's a relief. It's an honor. Let me repeat that. 147 people have been the president since 1873. How many firefighters do you think there have been since 1873?
Oh, right. I mean, how many fire chiefs? Yeah.
Yeah, and only 147th have held this office. If you looked at things in its grand scheme, it's a small club.
Yeah, very
small club, and it's a good grief. It's an honor and humbling to be part of it.
Well, congratulations, by the way, Chief. And I always say thanks for the time. I can't wait till the next conversations. We're not through yet. I still have some hot seat questions for you, but again, great knowledge. I appreciate you allowing me to go off on tangents and ask leadership questions. We wanted to try to keep this more to your tenure at IAFC president, but Janelle knows this. If I got a great person and leader in front of me, I'm going to try to dig in and see how I can benefit, which I do, but also how our listeners can. So, obviously, thank you for being you. But before we wrap up, start the timer. We're going to throw you in some more hot hitting questions. First one, what's the biggest challenge facing the fire service today?
Financial restraints, if you will, challenges. The dollar doesn't add up or sustain or maintain what we've done in the past. We have to reevaluate the efficacy of our departments and the efficiency of our departments Sometimes they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some work to do. In many cases, we have to grow some fire departments out there, and in some cases, we have to retract some.
Yeah.
So to meet the mission, but let it be data informed decisions. Let it be data inspired decisions, not what I think and what I feel. I don't think we need this engine. Doesn't mean squat.
Yeah.
But or I think we need this engine. That too, doesn't hold water. So let's be able to back our decisions up with data.
Yeah, take the emotion out of it and really show that we need something. Yeah, and I think we owe that to the citizens we serve,
Yes.
right?
They expect
Spending
that.
their money.
They
Yep.
expect that from us.
What's personally, what's one of the biggest challenges you've overcome recently?
I'm just going to stop with listening, getting better at that. That's huge. Yeah.
All right, here's another one you're not going to be happy with. This is going to be tough.
Okay.
Who has been the biggest positive influence in your fire service life?
One person?
You can answer it any way you like. I'd say go for as many as you want.
My mother, my biggest cheerleader. Yes. She's been our rock. She's truly the matriarch of our family. And look, she raised 4 Marines, a firefighter / fire chief, a Maryland State Trooper, and a number of other words and people and titles. So she's a tough cookie and raised a lot of good men and one woman.
If anybody was to put your name in the same sentence of someone other leader in the fire service, who would you want that to be?
Chief Mitchell, Ernie Mitchell.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about Chief Mitchell.
I like his affect, his contribution. He still is working and contributing and bringing a lot of value to the fire service, both on the FRCE board as well as in many other ways. He was a trailblazer, pioneer as U.S. Fire Administrator, IAFC President. Yeah. Just a good all-around guy and really accessible. And I like how he's carried himself in the recent years. As a retired member of the fire service. He kind of blows up that word retired because he's just as active, if not more, than any active fire chief right now.
And I've had a couple conversations where I've met him and you talk about listener. He just asked me a couple questions and he listened. And the second time I saw him, he remembered quite a bit about that conversation. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So yeah, unbelievable individual, great leader in the fire service. So I'd say, I think you're doing a pretty good job and you're pretty much there, Chief. So just keep doing what you're doing. But let's bring it all together. Last question, why we're here. Mm-hmm. How are you working to get better?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do to get better is to slow down a little bit. So sometimes to get bigger, you have to get smaller, or to get better, you have to do less. I need to tone it down a notch, especially after this year. Get head right, get body right, get relationships right, and all of those things, and then get back to firing on all pistons. Not that I'm not right now, but there should be a period of time where it's spent on self-care. That's the word. After FRI, when we transition to the president of the IAFC, President Josh Waldo, I'm going to take a couple of days and go to a little place I have in Florida and kind of hang out there for a little bit and then get back to work.
Yeah, I love it. Self-care. If I had Chief Waldo here, what's the one big piece of information you want to give him? Advice, you should say.
Run your own race. Be true to yourself. The IAFC presidency, there's no manual on who to be and how to be. Be Josh. Be your own president. Do your own style. They love seeing us. They love being involved with us, the board, and our members. That is. So be yourself. Have fun with it. Enjoy every moment. It goes so fast. I know that's so cliche. It's a year. The first month is all confusing. It's all a blur. and then about 8 months of heavy lift and hard work. And before you know it, staff is starting to talk to you about preparing for FRI. So all those a year, if you could bell curve it, all those a year, it's that middle is real heavy. On the ends, it starts to thin out a little bit.
Yeah, and it's really important. Like I love how you've mentioned self-care quite a few times, and it's one thing you're going to focus back on. I don't know. I've just watched the role. I don't know the role like you do, but that's one thing. Every once in a while, I'll send them a text message, be like, "Hey, you getting your workouts in? Are you taking time for yourself?" And I think that's important for everyone in the fire service. Obviously, leaders need to start stepping up. Yes. and setting that example. But everyone in the fire service really needs to focus on themselves, because that's how we provide better service, right?
Absolutely.
And and along with self-care is listening, is empowering those around you, which are things that you have done, continue to do, and inspire others to do. And I can't thank you enough for your bestowing your knowledge. Congratulations on your tenure as president. And we didn't dig too much into the next steps, but I think we'll bring you back sometime as I'll give you some time. I think there's other big things on the horizon for you, Chief. So again, it's very sincere thank you. For all of us that, all of our listeners here. By the way, you can see, Chief, the biggest decision he had to make today, he said, was his shirt. I think he nailed it. Yeah. He's actually coming to us from a firehouse today, and getting out into the field and connecting with a lot of his members. So you can see that environment. You can see that, of course, on our YouTube channel. So please watch us there, rate, review the show. You can email us at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. Again, Chief, congratulations.
Thank you. And thanks to the crew here at Fire Station 426 Etzel Road in Fairfax County for allowing me to squat in their space. And, they're always so accommodating.
And that's what's going to make the fire service better. Work on yourself to improve and bring those around you along for the ride. Look forward to hearing about your future endeavors. And just to recap that, you talked about being yourself, focus on listening, and constantly working to improve yourself, because it's ultimately about learning something, doing something, and sharing something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for listening, everybody.